Hello everyone, welcome to the session. My name is Balchandra Atre and I am a supportability PM at Microsoft, specializing in public folders. In today's session, I will present the best practices to prepare the public folders at on-premises for migration to Exchange Online. By end of this session, you will be able to understand overview of process to migrate public folders to Exchange Online using the native tools. Best practices and tools used for trouble-free migration. This is a 1,000-feet overview of how the native migration process works. Preparation is the key step, and we will be spending majority of this session on the preparation part, which will ensure you do not face any issues in the actual migration. As part of preparation, you will find out stale and unwanted public folders and remove them, validate the existing public folders for known issues, and fix any issues which are reported. Check the size of existing public folders and public folder items and ensure they are not very large. Create the mapping file and target public folder mailboxes. Once all the preparatory steps are completed, you will create a migration batch using mapping file created earlier and start the migration batch. At this stage, both on-premises as well as Exchange Online users will continue having access to public folders. In the final step, you lock the public folders at source and complete the batch. The public folders at Exchange Online will be unlocked once the migration batch completes successfully. And before we dive into the details of preparation, here are some of the highlights of the native migration process. There is no option to migrate only selective public folders. You must remove the unwanted public folders if you do not wish the folders to be migrated. Only one migration batch is allowed for public folders. Once the migration batch is completed, no more data from source can be copied over to Exchange Online. Maximum of 250,000 public folders can be migrated to Exchange Online. As the famous quote goes, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Same applies for the public folder migration as well. Let us now explore the detailed steps for preparing the public folders at source for migration. The preparation starts with taking inventory. This is the time to take stock of public folder deployment at source. Find out stale public folders lying out there and decide if those folders are really needed. Do we really want to migrate data that has not been accessed for over a long period of time? And following our commands that can help you get the information about stale public folders. I have observed a lot of public folder migrations failing or getting delayed because the individual items were too large or a very large public folder was being migrated. It is best to keep the maximum individual public folder size between 15 to 25 gigabytes and no more than this. You can use export public folder statistics script to get public folder size information. If you have any public folder larger than 25 GB, you should break up the public folder to ensure there are no public folders greater than 25 GB in size. For public folder items, the default max receive size on public folder mailbox in Exchange Online is 35 megabytes. You should find out the public folder item sizes at source. If you have public folder items that are larger than 35 MB, you must change the maximum send and receive size on the target public folder mailbox. However, if you have public folder items that are larger than 150 MB, you must remove these items. You can use the get public folder item statistics command to check the individual item size in the public folders. What is in the name they say? Well, for public folders, if you have a forward slash or a backward slash, it may cause migration to go unexpected. Hence, you must check for public folders with these characters in the name and fix them. You can use a command like this to list the public folders which have a forward slash or a backward slash in the name. And then use following command to fix the public folders with such name. As you can see in the demo, I have replaced the public folders which have a forward slash or a backward slash in the name with a pipe symbol. Following are major causes for migration slowness or failures: barnacles, mail-enabled public folders not in good shape, health of the dumpster folders, source exceeding limitations like folder depth increasing, etc. The source-side validation script was developed to analyze the on-premises public folder deployment and report the issues found along with the guidelines to fix the issues. The script must be run from Exchange 2010 or Exchange 2013, depending on where the public folders have been deployed. It is best to use the script after you have cleaned up the source environment with unwanted public folders, and use the script before you start the migration. Here are a couple of examples on how to use the source-side validation script. In the first example, the script will perform all the checks. And in the second example, the script will perform only public folder permission related validations. In this demo, the source-side validation script is used to perform permission related validation. The script will generate output file and indicate if there are any bad ACLs present along with the name of the public folders. This is an example of the output provided by the script. You'll have to modify the output to suit the command a little bit in order to automate the process of removing the bad ACLs and save the output as a CSV file. And then use command like this to remove the bad ACLs present on the public folders. We recommend you run the source-side validation script and ensure that the script provides an output like there are no errors found. This will ensure that the source public folders are error-free and ready for migration. Following are common issues encountered during migration with respect to mail-enabled public folders. The source can have orphan mail-enabled public folders, which happens if the Active Directory entry is not associated with the mail-enabled public folder, or if the non-IPM subtree has public folder that is mail-enabled. The validate mail-enabled public folder script can help you find such mail-enabled public folders and also provide you readily usable output to fix these problems. In this example, the validate mail-enabled public folder script indicates it has found one system folder which is mail-enabled. There are a couple of mail-enabled public folders that do not have an AD object associated, which indicates that these are orphan public folders. The script also presents a command to fix these issues reported. You can use the command to fix the problems reported. Again, we encourage you to run the script multiple times to ensure that there are no errors reported by the script. And this will ensure the mail-enabled public folders are also ready to be migrated. Planning how many public folder mailboxes you need in Exchange Online is a critical task as well. You don't want to create a lot of public folder mailboxes. And At the same time, you don't want to overload each target mailbox that might fill up the target public folder mailbox during the migration. Following are some of the guidelines to remember. Do not place any content in the primary hierarchy mailbox. The current maximum size of public folder mailbox is 100 GB. Plan to fill up to 50% of this capacity. So, total public folder size at source in gigabytes divided by 50 should give you an idea of how many public folder mailboxes you need in Exchange Online. The modern public folder mailbox map generator script can help you get idea of how many public folder mailboxes are required in Exchange Online and also provides you a mapping file. The mailbox replication service uses the mapping file to place public folders from source into specific target public folder mailboxes in Exchange Online. Here are some guidelines on a well-defined mapping file. Ensure the primary hierarchy mailbox is mapped to the root folder. Add public folder exclusively in the mapping file. If you wish to place specific folder in specific public folder mailbox, you must create the entry of the public folder exclusively in the mapping file. Once the entry is added, the folder and all the subfolders below it will be migrated to the specific target public folder mailbox. Ensure each folder that is present directly on the root has explicit mapping on the file, and it is mapped to a non-primary hierarchy public folder mailbox. It ensures that the primary hierarchy mailbox serves only hierarchy. Finally, ensure the target public folder mailbox names are provided correctly. In this demo, let us find out how to prepare the mapping file for hierarchy, which is represented here. The default mapping file provided by the script has generic names, and all folders except finance are mapped to be copied to the primary hierarchy mailbox, which is not a good idea. I have edited the mapping file to change the target public folder names from generic to unique. Create explicit entry for each public folder present on root to non-primary hierarchy mailboxes. Also, create explicit entry for a public folder that needs to be placed under different public folder mailbox. As an example here, public folder finance will be migrated to PFMBX2. And a public folder named USA, which is also present under finance, this is large in size. And I wanted this public folder to be migrated to a dedicated public folder mailbox. Hence, I have created an exclusive entry for the public folder in the mapping file. Migrations can fail or produce unexpected results if the connectivity to source server is not working as expected. The migration from Exchange Server 2010 works on Outlook Anywhere or RPC or HTTP. Even if you have Exchange Server 2013 or higher acting as a front-end server. It is best to ensure the service account being used to migrate public folders can access Exchange 2010 public folders from internet. You can use the Exchange Remote Connectivity Analyzer tool to perform this test, or you can use an Outlook for desktop client from internet and ensure the connectivity to public folders works successfully. You can also use the test migration server availability command and ensure the connectivity from Exchange Online to the source public folder servers works fine. And if your environment uses a load balancer, it is best not to use the load balancer for MRS related traffic. Finally, if you have a firewall with very stringent inbound connectivity, ensure The Exchange Online IP addresses are whitelisted on the firewall. The deleted public folders are stored under non-IPM subtree. These are also referred as dumpsters. Excluding this data can help you scale your public folder migration if you do not need the data to come over. This will result in faster public folder migration as the amount of data that needs to be copied is going to be smaller. In some cases, corrupted dumpster folders can cause migrations to fail. In such scenarios as well, you may want to exclude the dumpster from migration. Migration of public folders in dumpsters can be skipped using the exclude dumpster parameter. This option is available only for migrations from Exchange 2013 or higher to Exchange Online. The option must be specified at the time of migration batch creation. Following is an example of specifying the exclude dumpster option during the batch creation. Let us now look at the next steps in the migration. After the preparatory steps are completed, you will create a migration batch using the mapping file created earlier and start the migration batch. Ensure to specify the exclude dumpster option in case you want to skip deleted public folders from migrating. The migration batch copies the data from source to target. Once initial data is copied, the batch status changes to synced. From here on, the migration batch copies the incremental changes from source to Exchange Online once every 24 hours. At this stage, both on-premises as well as Exchange Online users will have access to public folders. After you are confirmed all user mailboxes have been migrated to Exchange Online, you will go for completion of the public folder migration batch. As part of completion, you will lock the public folders at source. This step requires downtime. The lock is required to prevent changes to public folders at source during finalization. At this stage, no users will be able to access the public folders. Then you go for completion of the batch. During this stage, the data that was changed between the last incremental sync and locking of the public folders will be copied over to Exchange Online. Once the final data is copied over successfully, the migration batch goes into a completed stage. And public folders at Exchange Online are unlocked for end user access. The downtime is required to perform the completion. The time required depends upon the size of final data that needs to be copied over to Exchange Online. It is recommended to plan for 24 to 48 hours of downtime to allow the system enough time to complete the finalization process. That brings us to the end of this session. To summarize the key takeaways, prepare well before you start. Clean up your source system, remove any unnecessary public folders, validate and fix. Check and remove the bad ACLs present on your public folders. Check the public folder size and quotas. Ensure there is no individual public folder larger than 25 GB. Set the public folder mailbox size in Exchange Online if you have public folder items that are larger than 35 MB. Ensure the mail-enabled public folders are taken care of and there are no orphaned mail-enabled public folders or there are no system folders which are mail-enabled. As you go for completion of the batch, the finalization can take time. Schedule enough downtime. It can take up to 24 to 48 hours for the migration batch to finalize and complete. Thank you for watching this session. Please follow this link to watch other interesting sessions to help migrate your on premises data to Exchange Online.